My name is Chichi Clark. I'm a member of the Grand Rapids Mayor's Youth Council and a senior at City High Middle School. Welcome to KidSpeak 2019. In my neighborhood, I would.
Hello, my name is Riley. I'm a senior at City High Middle School. I'm also a member of the Mayor's Youth Council and the chair of the KidSpeak subcommittee. We will be your MCs. We want to thank you all for joining us today, and we really appreciate your support. Today's proceedings are being streamed live on the city's Facebook and YouTube pages, so we want to give a special shout out to all those joining us online.
In the next 2 hours, you will hear directly from young people about a subject that was selected by the Mayor's Youth Council. You will hear very honest, surprising, perhaps startling, and candid testimonies. None of the testimonies have been censored by us. What you'll hear will be from the heart.
As chair of this year's KidSpeak committee, it was hard to come up with a subject. I mean, there's so many issues facing youth today. We could go on for hours talking about all sorts of subjects. But as we talked, we quickly realized that all the issues that we thought were most important all surround the issues of communities and neighborhoods. And that's how we came to In My Neighborhood, I Would.
KidSpeak is an annual forum created by Michigan's children and facilitated throughout Michigan. In Grand Rapids, this forum is facilitated by the Mayor's Youth Council. We're a group of high school teens who live in the city of Grand Rapids and attend a Grand Rapids public school. As council members, we meet with Mayor Bliss monthly to discuss issues facing youth today, as well as issues that get discussed in this very room, the City Commission chambers. We are learning about our community and the role city government plays in our lives.
Our fellow council members are in the baby blue t-shirts and are working to ensure this event is a success. For those NYC members who are in the room, please stand and or wave to be recognized. Thank you guys for all your hard work. By now, everyone should have received this year's KidSpeak commemorative t-shirt. The image on the shirt, as well as the image on the screen, was designed by our very own Rakundo, a 12th grade student at Innovation Central High School and a member of the Mayor's Youth Council. Please give him a round of applause as he takes the mic and tells us about his inspiration behind the design.
Hi, my name is Rakundo. As was said, I'm senior at Innovation Central High School. I am also a member of the Grand Rapids Mayor's Youth Council. I designed the t-shirt logo for KidSpeak 2019. The logo that's printed on your t-shirt was my initial design, which was done in sketch and by pencil. If you look on the screen, there's my digital version. The podiums represent the event, KidSpeak. The buildings and the houses will symbolize the community and neighborhoods. And the right there's the logo of the Grand Rapids Mayor's Youth Council. Although we as a youth will hear many problems that faces our community, we still maintain hope that these challenges can be resolved. And that's what the sign represents at the top. Thank you.
Thanks, Rakundo. Now please welcome Mayor Rosalind Bliss. Mayor Bliss is serving her 4th year of her first term in office. Mayor Bliss has been a champion of connecting children to nature, small businesses, and advancing racial equity, among other very important issues. Please welcome Mayor Bliss as she says some opening remarks and gives the listening panel introduction instructions.
Good morning, everyone. It is such a delight to have you here with us this morning for one of my favorite events in the year. So I have the incredible joy to work with and get to know these amazing young people who are part of my Mayor's Youth Council. And they're pretty phenomenal, and you'll be able to see that today. I want to take this moment to thank them. They are the ones that spend the entire school year organizing this event. They do everything. They organize it, they get the word out, they determine what questions to pose, they read through all of the applications of the students who are going to speak today. They organize today, so I'm sure you saw them welcoming you downstairs here at City Hall. This really is a testament to their compassion, but also, and wanting to bring voices to the table, but also their hard work and dedication. So I'm just really fortunate to be able to work with them. And what a great t-shirt and design. Isn't that fabulous? They're so talented, and these are our future leaders. And I always say to them every month when I meet with them that I hope to see one of them in this chair someday. And that's true. And you know who you are. So to kick us off, this is a great partnership that we have with Michigan's Children. We're really glad to have Matt with us today. What I want to do to get us started is give the listening panel, all the members who are sitting up here and sitting right here in these chairs up here. I wish the chambers were larger so that we all could be up here. But what I want to do is give all of the listening panel members an opportunity to introduce themselves, share with all of you who they are, who they represent, and then we will turn it back over. Actually, I think it goes to Matt after that. So I think I'll start. Again, I'm Mayor Rosalyn Bliss, and I welcome you to City Hall. And now I'll turn to Matt.
I'm Matt Gillard, the President and CEO of Michigan's Children.
Hi, I'm Carol Hennessy. I'm a Kent County Commissioner representing areas within the city on the northwest, the northeast, and the southwest parts of the city.
Hello, I'm Tony Baker, and I'm the Grand Rapids Public School Board.
My name is Lisa Knight, and I'm the Director of Health, Wellness, and Youth at the Urban League of West Michigan.
Kurt Rephart, First Ward City Commissioner for Grand Rapids.
Catherine Downs Lewis, Grand Rapids Public School Board.
Lynn Heemstra, Executive Director of Our Community's Children.
I'm Yvette Pittman, and I manage the Office of Special Events for the City of Grand Rapids.
I'm Pastor Reggie Smith, and I'm the Director of Race Relations and Social Justice for the Christian Reformed Church.
Good morning. My name is Stacy Stout, Assistant to the City Manager with the City of Grand Rapids. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Malika Jobert Brown. I am the Director of Equity and Inclusion for the Grand Rapids Public Schools.
Good morning. My name is Lorena Aguayo Marquez, and I'm here as Movimiento Cosecha Grand Rapids, and I'm an organizer, community organizer.
Good morning. I'm Ramiro Galvan. I'm Chief of Staff to Senator Winnie Brinks.
Good morning. My name is Misty Stanton. I'm the Diversity and Inclusion Officer for Mercantile Bank of Michigan.
Good morning. I'm Connie Bohach. I'm the Managing Director of Community Services for the City of Grand Rapids.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kelsey Perdue, and I'm with the Grand Rapids Community Relations Commission.
Morning, everyone. I'm Jim Talon. I'm a Kent County Commissioner representing parts of the City of Grand Rapids.
Good morning. I'm Christian Grant, and I am serving as the President for the Grand Rapids Public School Board.
Mary Judnich, Regional Manager for Senator Debbie Stabenow, who covers the whole state of Michigan.
And I'm Commissioner Kelly. I serve on this board, and I represent the north end of Grand Rapids.
Good morning, good young people. My name is Raynard Ross. I'm the Treasurer for Grand Rapids Public School Board.
Good morning. My name is Representative Rachel Hood, and I'm one of 2 state representatives serving the City of Grand Rapids.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jerome Glenn. I am a future facilitator and the lead pastor of the Revolution Culture Movement.
And I just saw Eric DeLong walk in as well, our Deputy City Manager. So I just want to say thank you to everyone on the listening panel for taking time out of your day. I know you have busy schedules, and I appreciate you really valuing this time to listen to youth. And I'm looking at my schedule. I think I'm supposed to turn it back over to Riley before turning it over to Matt.
First, can we get a round of applause for everyone on the listening panel? Thank you for being here, and thank you, Mayor Bliss, for your leadership and the time you've shared with us this year. I've been on the Mayor's Youth Council for a while, and the leadership you've shared and all the talks, the monthly talks, have really helped shape me and shape so many others. So thank you so much. We also, so one of our partners for KidSpeak is Michigan's Children. Michigan's Children is a statewide organization that advocates for the needs of children. Michigan's Children created KidSpeak and facilitates these forums around the state. Please welcome Matt Gillard, President and CEO of Michigan's Children, as he gives some remarks.
Thank you, Riley. I am Matt Gillard, the President and CEO of Michigan's Children. Michigan's Children is a policy and advocacy organization focused on the pursuit of public policy in the best interests of children and families from cradle to career. We're based out of Lansing, but work with organizations throughout the state. In pursuit of that goal for better public policies around children and families, we think it's critically important that policymakers and decision makers and communities around the state hear directly from young people about the issues that are facing them in their lives, about about ideas that they have to make the world better, to make their communities better, and in this case, to may even make their neighborhoods better. And so we facilitate events like this around the state where we put young people directly in front of decision makers and policymakers talking about issues that are important to them. And these issues range across the entire spectrum of public policy ideas. We've had a lot of success with these events through the years. I will have to say this is one of our best events and one of my most favorite events that we come to every year here in Grand Rapids. But we take these ideas, we encourage the policymakers and decision makers that hear from young people at these events to consider these ideas when they make the decisions and set policies, both at the state level and at the local level, and even with our federal representatives and federal legislators as well. So it's a pleasure for me to be here. I want to thank the Mayor's Youth Council, thank Mayor Bliss and everybody on the listening panel for being here today. I want to thank the audience for being here today, but I mostly want to thank the young people who will be presenting and will be talking to the policymakers and decision makers about ideas that they have to make their communities and their neighborhoods better. So thanks again.
Thanks, Mr. Gillard. Now I'd like to introduce to you Lynn Heemstra, Executive Director of Our Community's Children. Our Community's Children is a partnership between the City of Grand Rapids, the Grand Rapids Public Schools, and community partners. It's an organization that advocates for innovative initiatives and programs that better prepare young people for college, work, and life. Please welcome Lynn Heemstra.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Matt, for your support of this event, and for all of you in the audience who are here supporting our young people, for the speakers who have chosen to stand up for your right to be heard. Our Community's Children has been around for going on 21 years, and we are dedicated to ensuring that every Grand Rapids young person has access and opportunities to help them better prepare them for college, work, and life. And I, too, think this is one of the most wonderful events because young people can practice the skills that will last a lifetime. And that means being able to stand up and be heard in very strong ways, that we will hear what you have to say and that we can consider that in our policy going forward. I want to thank Shannon L. Harris, who is by the door, and Karina Cisneros, who have been instrumental in creating this amazing event with the Mayor's Youth Council. We're very excited for it, and thank you all for being here.
You speakers that are here today were asked to answer one of the following questions that we, the Mayor's Youth Council, helped develop. Number 1, what does a peaceful, secure, and just neighborhood look and feel like? What is the ideal neighborhood? Does your neighborhood measure up to this? Does where you live determine how successful you are and will be today, tomorrow, and in the future? Why or why not? Describe your neighborhood. In what ways would you like to see it improve or stay the same? Please give examples. Number 4, have you ever had to move because it became too expensive to live there? If so, how has that impacted your life? Number 5, when new businesses, housing developments, and people move into your neighborhood, what happens? Describe in detail. Number 6, if you could live anywhere within the city limits of Grand Rapids, where would you live and why? Number 7, have you ever felt unsafe in your neighborhood? Does more or less police presence help or harm? Whose responsibility is it to make a neighborhood safe? Tell us why you feel this way. Number 8, does your neighborhood make you feel happy, healthy, and inspired? Does your neighborhood make you feel excluded, less than, or depressed? Describe how you feel and tell us how elected officials should respond. Number 9, have you ever been discriminated against based on your neighborhood? Tell us how. Number 10, what types of facilities and activities do you / would you want to attend in your neighborhood? Do you hang out in your neighborhood? Why or why not? And number 11, do you use your neighborhood's parks and playgrounds? What recommendations do you have to improve those spaces?
This year we have over 30 speakers submit testimony, and we want to hear from all of them. So without further ado, please welcome our first speaker, Mariah Barrera.
America is a country in which economic prosperity seems to be the principal indicator of the well-being of the people who inhabit a particular place. I mean, when we compare a country on a global scale, we rank it according to its GDP. In other words, how much we produce and the value of this production. It seems, however, that this rhetoric of economic success being the best measure of the well-being of our people has seeped into the infrastructure of our country, our cities. So we love our new businesses, luxury housing developments, and influx of individuals coming to our neighborhoods. We prize money over humanity and cherish revenue over livelihood. Wealthy entrepreneurs scour neighborhoods like mine with cheap property values in order to obtain space to create their business that will most likely only cater to the affluent crowd in which they represent. This hypothetical new coffee shop has prices that people in my neighborhood most likely can't afford, but for those enthusiasts who will pay $7 for a cup of coffee, they found a new place to dwell. As more developments come, some on a larger scale, so do the affluent people and their money. Great for my neighborhood, right? Well, not so much. See, the money comes in, but many people will start to go out, exiting quietly as they cannot afford the rent as a result of the new revenue in the revitalized business area. Sometimes being in a neighborhood for 5 to 10 years means nothing when a business starts thriving for 1 or 2. This phenomenon is more common than you think, especially in the city we call home, Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids is no stranger to gentrification. As our city grows in many different areas, we potentially will begin to push out those who were here before the commercial growth. Now, don't get me wrong, money in our communities and our city does have its upsides for our people, but we shouldn't ever put money over the well-being of an entire group of people, as it should be noted that gentrification disproportionately affects communities of color. Although gentrification feels like an unavoidable consequence in a growing city like ours, it is our shared responsibility to figure out how to combat the issue and create solutions for this inequity. I don't want to voice my concerns about the problem without offering potential solutions. When a new development of large commercial scale is proposed in a neighborhood, all neighborhood stakeholders should have a say in the discussion. Community members should be allowed to voice their concerns, and those with the development process should maintain the community's priorities, goals, and values. This can lead to inclusive development if development has to occur. Next, I feel as a city we should strongly discourage large-scale luxury developments of what we would classify as at-risk communities based on mean income levels and other demographics. Last but not least, we need more resources for those facing displacement and increased affordable housing in Grand Rapids. The problem more or less comes down to affordability and availability. If people were able to afford a lot of the housing outside of their immediate communities that are familiar to them, and if it were available, displacement wouldn't be that large of an issue. We need more available, safe, subsidized housing in nice communities, more resources, and more availability. With those ideas in consideration, I feel Grand Rapids can start to move in the right direction in hopes that one day I can answer the question, when new businesses, housing developments, and people move into your neighborhood, what happens? I can say that my neighborhood is thriving right along with the rest of the city. Thank you.
Next, I want to welcome up Jesus Garcia from Grand Rapids Public Museum School. He's in 9th grade.
All right. Hello. Growing up is something I don't understand yet, but what I do know is that my dad has risked his life to put me where I am today. He entered this country illegally to give me and my siblings opportunities that I would only think of if I were in Mexico. But he's now deported, and my mom and sister have no other choice but to support the family and work in a neighborhood that she doesn't feel comfortable in. My dad laid the foundation for my future, and from here on, I decide my future. He'd always tell me, échale muchas ganas porque vas a ser grande. Take a lot of desire because you're going to be great. My dad and people like DeMar DeRozan, LeBron James, and Elon Musk are reasons why I don't believe a neighborhood should determine your future when they all overcame neighborhood struggles. I asked my dad if where you live determines how successful you'll be, and he simply said, ¿Por qué lo haría? Why would it? I hear the people around my neighborhood say they hate being raised in a low-income area, but I would like to disagree. It builds a lot of things within you, and it's given me a different perspective on the world most don't get to see. Where we live shouldn't define our character. Where we live should be used to better ourselves. Where we live is where talent is created. Where we live makes us stronger because in my neighborhood, I would help those who couldn't make it out because success is not guaranteed, and neither is our future. But where we live shouldn't play a role in determining either one. My sister tells me every day how lucky I am, with many open doors that could have stayed closed. But compare me to my sister, who works an 8-to-6 job with no other choice because she wasn't given the same opportunity as me. Although with her optimism, I know she'll make it out to college and to complete her goal. Now compare her to those who give up their talents to the streets. Those people are the ones who give the streets power. But compare them to those who choose to have grit, those who choose to have aspiration, and those who choose to have fortitude. Those people are the ones who deserve to succeed, and that's why we're here. Today, our voices are lifeboats filled with hope, ready to save those who are willing to hear. My dad created hope for me, so now it's my turn to give hope to my people. Thank you.
Next, Nasir Abdallah, a fourth grader at Excel Charter Academy.
Hello, my name is Nasir Abdallah. I am in fourth grade at Excel Academy. Today I'm going to be talking about how the police can help my neighborhood. I live in a neighborhood because a grocery store that is quiet and dark, and people around me are loud and violent. They make me feel unsafe. First, people are loud. Some of my neighbors play loud music in their car. Then they go past their cars, also make a lot of noise. People who work for the neighborhood should put up a sign that says quiet zone so that is not loud anymore. Also, people drive crazy. The speed limit is 15, but many cars go 30. Even where kids are playing or walking, cars are driving fast. A solution is to have a police car to patrol the area, so there could be cameras set up so the license plates could be recorded. They could put up a sign that says, let people know how fast are they going, and if they speeding, they could slow down. Sometimes there are people throwing rocks at windows and knocking on doors and going away. Sometimes we found cigarettes on our front porch left by people who smoke, and they leave their finished cigarettes in our neighborhood. There is a wood near. People often argue and yell. It makes me feel unsafe, like there are angry people around, and that scares me. Then I was sleeping. I thought that I could possibly be kidnapped because I hear yelling and footsteps near my window. I think a solution to this is to try to get the police to patrol the neighborhood more often during the night so that I feel safe, protected. The police do not scam like they are trying to help us as they could, because they do not come by very often. Police might think it's good and safe when really it's a bad. Few people feel scared. The police can protect us by coming around more often because the bad people are afraid of them. Then people get fined for doing wrong things, then act better. My neighborhood would be better if the police who live and work would be thoughtful to follow the laws and treat people kindly. Having the police around is how everybody learns to be safe and nice and helpful. Thank you.
Next, we have Nkechi Okwasi, a fifth grader at Southwest Community Campus.
Hi, my name is Nkechi Okwasi. I'm a fifth grade student at Southwest Community Campus. Take a moment and close your eyes. Imagine turning down your street and seeing debris and trash everywhere. Semis at night, pothole after pothole, abandoned homes, and cars speeding carelessly down the street. Sometimes feeling insecure after seeing police vehicles in and out the neighborhood, anxiously wondering what horrible things have just happened. Imagine driving 10 minutes out of Southtown Square. Feel like you're in a different city with manicured lawns, smooth streets, kids playing without a worry, and happy homes built with care. If you ever see an officer in those areas, they're smiling and waving without accusation. You may be wondering why there is a big difference over there. Why the nicer neighborhood? I am often left wondering the same thing. It makes me think that more money is put into those neighborhoods, or more important people live there, or they have access to more resources than others. Because of this, I have always wanted to move. I wanted to leave the neighborhood I have spent the majority of my life in. But instead of moving, I am inspired to make a difference and create the neighborhood of my dreams. To me, a neighborhood I would want to live in is one where I would be happy to be home, one where I can invite friends over to have fun, one where I am not treated by the color of my skin, but the content of my personality. I want to be proud of my neighborhood, to feel safe and to have the same quality, foundation, and upkeep as if it was a neighborhood with million-dollar homes. These are reasonable things to want in a neighborhood, reasonable and also possible. This may be my dream neighborhood, but it will take everyone to make it a reality. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Abdallah, a fifth grader at Excel Charter Academy.
Good morning. My name is Abdallah, and I'm in fifth grade at Excel Charter Academy. I live in an apartment in a neighborhood in Kentwood. In my neighborhood, there are a few families, but mostly single adults and couples. The people in my neighborhood are mostly Mexican, African American, and some white. I recognize everyone in my neighborhood, but I only know two families, the person next door and a family that goes to my school. People that live in my neighborhood are pretty average. Their cars seem like cars normal people would have, and their porches don't really have a lot on them, except their kids' bikes and a mat that says welcome. The pool in my neighborhood is only open to certain people. We have a park that only has a slide and a small walk wall next to the street. When people go outside of their houses, they are mostly smoking on their porches or walking their dogs. I like my neighborhood, but I would like to have some improvement on it. First, I would like to have no smoking because the wind often pushes smoke into our house. We can get sick and smell like smoke. If there were no smoking, we could keep our windows open and people in our neighborhood would be healthier. The second thing I want to improve is no violence. It happens a few times, but mostly in the summer. Sometimes people steal bikes, get into fights in the street, and start yelling, or get into physical fights where another neighbor has to break it up. One time someone stole a chair from my backyard and never brought it back. Another time my mom was cleaning a carpet and put it in the backyard to dry. When she came back 30 minutes later, the carpet was gone. If there were no violence, we would feel safer and could play outside without our parents needing to watch us constantly. The third thing I want in my neighborhood is an indoor pool and a basketball court. This way, in winter, people don't have to put on their snow gear to go play, and they can still play basketball and swim. Ultimately, I want my neighborhood to be a friendly place. If I help someone and my neighbor sees me, they might want to help someone too. And that kindness keeps going on. And this way, this will make our neighborhood a more friendly place.
Next, we have Neeli Jones, a 10th grader at Union High School.
Hello everyone, my name is Neeli Jones, and I have lived on the west side of Grand Rapids for the last 3 years. I live in a habitat house, and there are two parts of my neighborhood, the part people visit and the part people live in. I have seen familiar and well-used haunts get torn up and moved time and time again to make room for new developments. Sometimes that is a good thing, like when the old Duffler's was replaced by the Bridge Street Market. But sometimes practical and needed parts of the community are gotten rid of to make way for the newest bar or shop to drag in more well-dressed white nightlife lovers from the suburbs who knows where else. Their main difference is how clearly they don't come from our neighborhood. My street is pretty safe. I can see Sibley Elementary from my house, and that seems to have a calming effect on the houses around it. Or maybe it is the fact that most of the people that live on my street go to GVSU and move out just as often as they move in. Nobody sticks around but the people who can't afford to leave. In the 4 houses immediately surrounding me, none of the people who currently live here lived here 3 years ago when I first moved here. My house is a habitat house. We own our house and we are proud of it, but my parents still make plans to move up to the country or Texas or seemingly anywhere but the west side. Most of the city planners seem to care more about bringing consumers to the west side than increasing quality of life for the residents or creating a community of people who live here, not just people who like to go to Harmony Hall on the weekends. Great parts of the west side for residents include Sibley Elementary, the zoo, the library on Bridge, Lincoln Park, the Bridge Street House of Prayer, Dairy Queen, the Bridge Street Market, and the YMCA. But sometimes we become so enamored with the buildings in our neighborhood that we forget about the people. We are much happier living our separate blue-collar lives than to spend the time getting to know neighbors who are moving soon anyway. The difference between streets is pretty amazing too. You couldn't pay me to walk alone on Douglas Street at night. Lake Michigan Street is full of nice houses and manicured lawns and people who wouldn't dream of associating with us people over on Sibley. On my street, people have dumpsters in their yard, sell drugs, and don't talk to each other for the most part. Our front yards are okay, but our backyards are hell. And for high schoolers like me, the most obvious choice is Union High School, which needs serious help. Most of the bathroom doors don't even close, at least in the girls' room. Certain places smell like weed all over the school, and most students would describe the school and its students as ghetto. There is no school pride because people don't see the good in themselves or their situation. They don't see their accomplishments or the spreadsheets of good test scores that our teachers do. They see the orange juice that they sipped in on the way to class. They smell the weed in the hallway. They hear the expletives and insults slung across the hallways while the teachers chat with each other. We want to feel proud of ourselves and not just Bridge Street.
Next, we have Madeline Bartleson, a 9th grader at Grand Rapids Public Museum High School.
When I was little, my neighborhood seemed perfect. I had a friend next door and friends down the street. We had a play set in the backyard and a swing, and if that got boring, there were plenty of playgrounds nearby. We sometimes went to the bakery to get a pastry, and despite early bedtimes and the borders of the backyard and driveway, it seemed that there were few restrictions. We took walks fairly often with or without a destination. Cherry Street Park was my favorite place to go, despite how long it seemed to take to get there. We'd walk over to the park, play for as long as an hour, and get some ice cream before heading home. I had no qualms about approaching other children and asking whether or not they wanted to play. When I was little, I would say hello to each and every person that walked past us, even if I was supposed to be, say, listening to my parents. It's hard to say which has changed more as I got older, me or my neighborhood. Yes, there's a new park. Yes, an old one was torn down. Yes, there are new families. Yes, the parks that I have gone to have changed. Yes, I have new neighbors. Yes, I've gotten more introverted. Yes, I generally spend most outdoors time in the backyard. Yes, I no longer say hello to literally everyone. Yes, I walk home. Yes, I'm older. And maybe part of the change had to do with something that hadn't changed. I'm female. When I was little, it didn't matter. I didn't walk home when I was little. There weren't festivals focused on alcohol right down the street when I was little. People didn't catcall me when I was little. People wouldn't say creepy things to me when I was little. People wouldn't follow my sibling and I just a little too close when I was little. I wasn't afraid of people when I was little because I didn't think I had to be. I find it ironic that as my ability to move in my neighborhood as I please has increased, my trust in the area around me has decreased. I've noticed that most of the people who do those things aren't out enough for me to worry, but I still look over my shoulder when I walk home. I still get nervous when there are slow driving cars, and I still worry when there are other people on the sidewalk. But I do still smile and say hello. The kids up the street still make a town on the sidewalk with chalk. I walk past Mr. Oak every day in 3 steps. I can rollerblade in the evenings and I still go to the park and ride my bike. I can get a popsicle from the little store near the park and I can still push the merry-go-round and jump on. People sometimes say hello to me and I say hello back. I walk my neighbor's dogs and once someone rolled down their window and I was a little bit afraid, but it was just someone going home from school telling me that I like your dogs. We had a neighbor who I would trade hellos with when I rode up and down the block on my bike. I've changed since I was little, and I do wish that that festival didn't take place down the street, and that people wouldn't look at me the way they sometimes do, but I like the chalk. I like the parks and the ice cream and the dogs and the hellos I sometimes exchange with people. I like being able to smile about things that happen.
Next, we have Grishma Bista, a 3rd grader at Endeavor Elementary High School.
Good morning. My name is Grishma. I am in 3rd grade at Endeavor Elementary. In my neighborhood, I would say no smoking because I hate the smell of cigarettes. Also because I want a better place for every child in my community. Additionally, we all know that smoking is bad for your health. People throw cigarette butts everywhere and it does not look clean. If we had a better quiet space in our we could actually do our homework. If we had a swimming pool, there would be a spa for the moms so they can relax. There would also be a security guard to take care of the kids. I would let poor people stay for free. I would also have many hospitals nearby so they can get help whenever they need it. I hope you like my speech. Thank you.
Next, we have Naraya Snell, a 10th grade at Union High School.
Good morning. My name is Naraya Snell. I'm a sophomore at Union High School, like he said, and I'm also a student on the Mayor's Youth Council. The prompt that I chose goes along the lines of, does where I live affect how successful you'll be today, tomorrow, or in the future? I feel like there are so many different definitions of being successful, I can't even count on one hand. One of the definitions to me, that means the most to me, can be opportunities. The different opportunities that you have, and the biggest part is if you actually take advantage of them. There are so many different stereotypes on my neighborhood, and mostly my ethnic group in that neighborhood. I stay in the 3rd Ward where their stereotypes hits home. It hits so hard in all of our homes regardless of the minority or the neighborhood. In my personal experience where I stay, it does not affect my successfulness, nor does it take away from my success so far. I mean, I can say there are a few people that make ridiculous decisions in my neighborhood, but it's not the stereotype that most people put on it. Adding to opportunities, my neighborhood is given a lot of opportunities. Some decide to take them, some don't. In the end, we still have the chance to receive the opportunity, which defines equity. By all equal opportunities given, just as of now, being able to speak in front of you guys, it does not affect my successfulness, nor my future. Thank you.
Next, we have Tylen Johnson, a 9th grade at City High Middle.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tylen Johnson. I am a 9th grader at City High Middle School. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Those words of the great Michael Phelps have not only motivated me to keep going, but have also become my daily motto. The question I'm going to answer is, does where you live determine how successful you will be today, tomorrow, and in the future? So to answer the question, where you live does not determine how successful you will be today, tomorrow, and in the future. Anyone can come successful if they want to be successful. I'm an African American male living in poverty in the United States. It is very difficult to become successful, but it's not impossible. Given my own life experience, I have not allowed where I live to determine my success. Throughout my entire life, I have lived in poverty. There are many nights where I went to sleep without any food. There are also many times where I didn't have material things like other kids. Unfortunately, I did not have the same opportunities as other kids my age had. There are many times where I would not even talk about the community in which I lived in, and I started to become ashamed in where I lived. I went from house to house, being evicted to being kicked out. Watching my mom stress and wondering where our next meal would come made me empathize and mourn from her. I started to go into this melancholy and depressed state of mind. I became so insecure that I wouldn't even have sleepovers because I was afraid that people were going to talk about where I lived. Then, one day, after I came home from school in the 4th grade, I started to talk to my mom. We were talking and I asked her, "Mom, why are we in this house? Why can't we be rich and get a mansion?" She replied by saying, "Sometimes in life, you cannot control where you are from. Sometimes you cannot control how much money you have. Sometimes you cannot control what you have, but what you can do is accept where you are from. You can accept how much money you have, and you can accept what you have." After my mom said those words, my view on life changed tremendously. Before my mom said those impactful words, I had a deep animosity for people who had a better upbringing than I did. From that point going on forward, I could and would not let where I live act as an anchor that would hold me down. But I would let where I live become motivation for me. So slowly, I started to humble myself. I started to realize where I lived at and where I come from is a blessing. I started to appreciate what I have because although I do not have everything I would like to have, I still have enough. In conclusion, where you live does not determine how successful you'll be today, tomorrow, and the future. What determines success is your ambition and aspiration to keep going forward. What also determines success and motivation is having someone tell you that you can keep going. Some people face many adversaries and challenges more than others, but anybody can be successful regardless of where they come from. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Thank you.
Next, Madeline Robinson, a 9th grader at Grand Rapids Public Museum High School.
Hi. It was a hard adjustment and not solely due to the extreme difference in weather, but for me, the entire environment. I recently moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan from Dallas, Texas. We moved after my dad was promoted yet again, but there was a catch this time. Our new city would be that of St. Joseph, Michigan. We quickly realized it wasn't the best fit for our family, so Dad sought opportunity elsewhere. But this time in Grand Rapids, a bigger city closer to what we were used to and where we had family. Unfortunately for us, the housing market wasn't doing so exceptional at the time. It was difficult finding a home in a neighborhood of good schools where they weren't overpriced. My mom says that how housing bubbles happen and she refused to contribute to it. That's when we turned to apartments in the district where the schools we chose are located, leading us to downtown Grand Rapids, alongside Medical Mile, which is basically a college town, but in our apartment building, there is a mixture of middle-class Americans that are medical students, attorneys, and working professionals. My neighborhood is unlike the suburbs of North Dallas that I'm acclimated to, where there are homeowner associations that fine you if your grass is too long, or how you trust your neighbors enough to have a key to your home. Here, my neighborhood is like a diamond with no shine. It has potential, but the experience falls flat. You can feel the racial divide, from the police profiling to certain areas more inclined to a certain race. When my mom first took me to see the apartment that we now live in, it was hard accepting the idea of not living in a house, but I became intrigued. Doors hanging on the walls of the hallways from the houses that used to stand in the place of our new apartment building. It seemed symbolic. The next time I was there, about a week later, when we were moving in, I noticed something that made me feel a little guilty but also curious. I was walking into the entrance of the building when I noticed all of the homes that surround what is like an island of well-built modern buildings. When I looked at the houses, many homes suffered fractured porches falling apart, makeshift porch covers, trash scattered everywhere, and broken toys dumped and left. Where does pride for one's community come from? Why do some neighborhoods lack it? It took me back to the night I saw the neighbors on the wall. The night I saw the doors on the walls. As I was walking into the main hallway, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a relatively large family come out of one of the houses. I began to wonder how many families' homes were torn down to build these apartments that are now filled with people you can clearly tell are not a part of this world we have invaded. That is what we look like, invaders. I now realize that this is what gentrification looks like. And just like that, a textbook term became my reality. I've never seen something like this before, homes quite like these, where outside the window of overpriced apartment buildings, people that I would assume to be homeless are digging out of the building's shared dumpster of trash. It's unsettling and makes me feel uneasy. This issue, it affects me, the invader, and them, the invaded. And it's not just in Grand Rapids. I want to make that clear. There are many other cities with neighborhoods like the one I told you about. That is why there needs to be more discussion about gentrification and who it affects, a topic I didn't really understand the full extent of until standing right in the middle of it. This will never be my home. This will never be where I belong. So I ask you, as a city, what are we doing to help the most vulnerable through gentrification? Thank you.
Next, Nyaja Ezel Pittman, a ninth grader, Innovation Central High School.
Hi, I'm Nyaja Ezel Pittman, and if I had to choose a neighborhood to live in Grand Rapids, I would live in the north side, where the environment is more safe and protected and way much better. Versus the neighborhood I stay in, you can see people going to jail, doing drugs, and having to feel unsafe everywhere you go. You can see burned down houses, broken houses, dirty houses on every street you walk down, trash all over the ground. For example, when I walk down Franklin Street, I could see a house with broken doors, windows busted open, trash all over the lawn. Also feel like nobody really care about what you surrounded by, and no one's protecting you at all. There's no peace there. There's always someone who's arguing or fighting. Versus the north side, the cops actually care about the citizens that live there in the area, solving cases, less crime happening, and there's schools, kids there is learning things and having high GPA. Then you look at the kids that go to schools in the east side, south side, west side, they have bad GPAs, barely can learn anything, and bad attendance, barely anybody show up for school. The reason why I wrote about this question, if you had to choose a neighborhood to live in, where and why, because I feel like it's a very important part of the community that needs to be fixed and improved on, that can really help our neighborhood.
Next, we have Avery Fitzjohn, a 10th grader at Forest Hills Northern High School.
Hi everyone, my name is Avery Fitzjohn. I'm a 10th grader at Forest Hills Northern, and I'd first off like to say that I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak today. KidSpeak is such an amazing event for allowing students like me to have a voice. When I close my eyes and picture the perfect neighborhood, I don't see 5,000 square foot Victorian houses with large emerald lawns and over-accessorized pools. I don't see a detailed white gate perfectly tended to with white and pink hydrangeas surrounding it. I don't believe the house of the town is what makes a neighborhood perfect, but rather the people living there. I see a community of people who accept and support each other. A community of people where no boundary or fence leaves anyone out. A safe place for diversity and family. Your next door neighbor is not just your next door neighbor, they're your friend. I will always admire this about one of my childhood friends and her family. They live next door to a 98-year-old woman who was in decent health for her age, but buying groceries became a struggle for her. My friend and her mom would go over to her house every week and buy her the groceries that she needed. This impacted me because it taught me that you don't have to be close with someone to help them out, and that even the smallest favor can really make life so much easier for someone. I'm very grateful for the neighborhood that I live in. It may not be very diverse, but it is a safe and accepting area. It's not perfect because nowhere is, but it's filled with kind, lively people. I know that there are neighborhoods less fortunate than where I live, and I hope that one day the world can be a safer place. If we support and care for one another, then we will receive the same support and care which will make our community greater. We should treat the people around us as family and not just as acquaintances, because this is, in my opinion, what shapes a community, family. If we push through our differences and focus on strong, genuine relationships, then it will turn an ordinary neighborhood into a spectacular one. I remember when I was around the age of 6, every day in the summer I would play outside with my neighbors. They were slightly older than I was, and I looked up to them. They let me hang out with them even though I was the little 6-year-old and they were the 10-year-olds. They made me feel accepted, and this made me feel important. When they moved away, I no longer had anyone near my age to hang out with, but that was okay. Over the years, we've had many new families come in our neighborhood. This has taught me to be more welcoming and inviting. I like to believe that my neighborhood has become a community based on family. Everyone knows everyone, and no one is left out from any event. What we lack in diversity, we make up for in how we treat each other. In the future, I'd like to see my neighborhood be a more diverse environment because I know all of the residents would be open to that change. I am part of 1 out of 2 minority families in the whole neighborhood, and that is not okay. If diversity was promoted even more in my area, then I know more diverse families would happily move in. This is something we can all work on. We can all be more accepting, like my neighbor friends from 10 years ago, and we can all be more supportive and kind, like my friend and her family. My mom is someone who I admire greatly for her compassion and dedication to this community, and her love for random acts of kindness. She professionally helps women to reach their true potential by guiding them through life-changing decisions that allow them to reach their goals and dreams. Her passion for helping people be the best that they can, I believe, is why she so positively impacts our community. My mom loves to put a smile on someone's face, even if they're a random stranger. Sometimes she'll spontaneously pay for the person in line behind her's coffee at Starbucks. Or she'll leave a $5 bill in a locker at the gym to make someone else happy. I know that she's happy when she makes others happy, and her positivity allows me to be even more happy. Happiness isn't contagious, so why not have a little fun to spread it? My perfect neighborhood would be a safe place where everyone in the community is a family, and everyone is very accepting. The neighborhood that I live in is a safe, accepting place, but it would be the perfect place to live if there was more diversity and if that diversity was encouraged and accepted even more. I look forward to the future when my neighborhood can achieve this goal and be the best it can. I ask you right now to please think about your relationships with the people in your community. Is there someone you can help out? Is there someone you can surprise with a spontaneous act of kindness? Is there someone you can wave to on the street? Actions like these are what shape happy, strong communities. If we all commit to doing at least one act of kindness every day to make someone's day, then I'm sure our community will further grow together. We can do this. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time and your contributions to this wonderful community.
Next, I'm going to welcome up Zubaydah Abdallah, a third grader at Excel Charter Academy.
Hello, my name is Zubaydah Abdallah and I am in third grade at Excel Charter Academy. My neighborhood is filled with many different people. There's a grocery store, many restaurants, and my school. I live in an apartment building with my family of 6. When I am playing outside, I am playing on the sidewalk or on the grass behind the building. If I could improve my neighborhood, I would want to build a playground so that my brothers and I have a safe place to play. If I had a playground, there would be more people around to make sure we are safe. Then my mom wouldn't have to keep looking outside the windows to see if I'm okay. I would also like if there are no more smoking by my apartment building because it smells gross and it can make people sick. It would be nice to make my neighborhood better because it would help everybody living there. Even though my neighborhood is not the best, I still like it. Thank you.
So next, I'm going to take off my MC hat and give my own personal testimony. So for me, communities and neighborhoods are primarily about security and safety where you live. And in Grand Rapids, we have so many barriers preventing that. One of the biggest ones is housing. We have a huge housing crisis in Grand Rapids. We like to brag about how we're a growing city. My grandma sends me MLive articles all the time about how we're ranking up with the best, but we can't be a growing city if we don't have places for people to live. We have the lowest rental vacancy in the United States. We have the lowest amount of inventory per capita and one of the lowest in the United States. There are fewer than 250 homes in the market, and that's a higher estimate. The city is growing for the well-off, but for those low-income families, it's shrinking. There are fewer and fewer places to go. I can recall my family, at one point we lived in a literal shed. When I knocked over a paint can, it nearly flooded the place. But we eventually were able to move into a place on Dunham Street. We were able to buy the house, and we lived next to a lot of rental housing. And as time went on, I knew the people in my neighborhood. We had barbecues, we played at the park. But those families changed. They were no longer the friends I knew, but they turned into well-off white families. The demographics changed to be more like me. And that pushed so many of the people I know and loved out of the places they lived. I don't know where they go. I don't know where they are now because they were being forced out of places they lived for years. Housing is a huge problem, but that's not the only problem facing people in Grand Rapids. Policing is a major issue. People need to feel safe in their homes and neighborhoods. And we see almost on a daily basis situations where police officers repeatedly beat unarmed citizens, where 5 unarmed black teens are pulled over and at gunpoint based on a phone call. In December of 2017, an 11-year-old black girl was held at gunpoint while police searched her. This is because of racism, but it's an even more systematic problem than those events. And we can't forget a 2017 study where African Americans are twice as likely to be pulled over as white drivers. I can't even begin to imagine what it's like to feel so unsafe by the very people who are there to protect your own safety. And body cams are a nice step forward, but it's a systematic issue. And until we can ensure that the people within the police department no longer get away with the blatant racism and are protected by the very department that's sworn to protect the people of Grand Rapids, we can't be safe. We look at the Grand Rapids Police Officers Association, who, when the city of Grand Rapids tried to investigate more at the systematic racism, said, quote, "The morale in the police department is extremely low. Quote, hire consultants, conduct another study, or make disparaging remarks towards police because they felt blindsided." But in my opinion, good. You feel blindsided and your morale is low because you're doing these heinous things and heinous actions, and you need to be stopped. We need to take drastic action for accountability to get rid of these systematic issues within our police department. But not only that, but immigration is a major concern. It's last year's topic, so I don't want to rehash it too much. But I can't even begin to imagine being threatened to be deported out of this country just because I live here. And despite being a contributing member of my neighborhood, I would still feel unsafe. We remember Ilmar Ramos Gomez, who was recently detained by ICE based on a false tip by the GRPD, who believed he was undocumented. This was a false tip, but it's indicative of a greater problem of people being threatened by GRPD and ICE, threatening to kick them out of not just the city and the places they live, but out of the country they've lived in for so many years. This is an absolute injustice, and injustice should be called out in every way. Thank you.
Next, we have Kulani Muhammad from Forest Hills Northern High School in 9th grade.
Hello everyone, my name is Kulani and I'm a freshman at Northern High School. So the first thing that popped into my mind if I were to design an ideal neighborhood is that it would have a neighborhood gathering center. This is really important to me because I've lived in my neighborhood for the past 12 years and I barely know any of my neighbors. My family only interacts with our next door neighbors, and I wish we could have some of those same connections with everyone else. When I walk by the neighbors in my neighborhood, I can't talk to them. I just wave because I don't know their names. Yeah, perhaps it's because we don't reach out. My family doesn't reach out as much as we should, but I feel the bigger problem is that there aren't many opportunities for everyone to get to know each other. And when I say community gathering center, it doesn't necessarily have to be an actual building of some sort where everyone gathers. It could be something as simple as a community garden where people would see each other often. Another thing I would change if I could would be the play area for kids. Outside activities are kind of restricted, and I live right next to an intersection, and the houses in my neighborhood are divided by a cobblestone street, so it's not that safe for kids to play outside unless it's in their backyard. I couldn't really do common things such as like riding a bike when I was little. We would have to just ride in our little driveway because we did live on a main road, so there are cars constantly passing back and forth, so it's not that safe for children. Yeah, and it gets pretty hectic during the day. The main problem is that there aren't any pedestrian crosswalks either, so you can imagine how dangerous it is to walk across the other side of a street by simply using a mental timer and just guessing when you should or shouldn't go. Whenever me and my sister have to walk to the corner store, it's literally just us like running across the street and hoping we don't get hit by a car. So yeah, and I live really close to downtown. And so another thing that I would like to have in my ideal neighborhood is a safety patrol team, because I do live really close to downtown, and when there are holidays, there are lots of people who are out drinking and having a good time, and so occasionally we'll get drunk people who knock on doors. And one time, someone did knock on my family's door for about an hour or so, and when my mom called the police department, it didn't really seem like they prioritized our safety, because it was 3 a.m. and they told us that maybe we should open the door and see who it is, when we clearly knew it was just a drunk person. So yeah, that was really concerning, because my parents were obviously afraid for my siblings and I's safety, but I was more concerned about them because they're my parents. So yeah, that's something really big, and if I could control the features added to every neighborhood in the US and even across the world, adding a safety patrol team would be on my top list of priorities. So yeah, thank you.
Emery Herring from Grand Rapids Public Museum School in 9th grade.
Hi, my name is Emery Herring. I'm a freshman at the Museum High School. Every day, people are caught in the cycle and mindset of failure, or even worse, closed off success. People are born into the mindset that they can only accomplish certain things, and anything more than what their parents, neighbors, and friends have achieved is out of reach. If you were lucky enough to grow up in a neighborhood with people around you who are successful, then immediately your dream seems so much more in reach, simply because you see what others have accomplished. When you hear stories of famous athletes, engineers, or overall successful people, it isn't rare for their story to start with, "I grew up with nothing." If so many people are trapped by their communities and are forced to live smaller, how do so many people still make it out? The mindset of the person and the people around them is what gets them out. The mindset of success and not having limits to what you can accomplish determines your success, not the house you live in or what your neighborhood looks like. Steve Harvey explained this as taking the lid off the jar. As a flea is born with a 36-inch vertical leap. But if you put that flea in a jar with a lid on it, the flea will only jump high enough so he won't hit his head and fall back down. The flea will make adjustments so that he can jump just high enough so that he won't hit the lid of the jar. Now say that babies of these flea are born with a 36-inch vertical leap as well, but are shown only to jump only high enough to not hit the top of the jar. The neighborhood you live in isn't what sets the lid on the jar, but the people around you and your own personal mindset is the lid on the jar. If you follow yourself and others to remove the lid, success will follow. Don't be the one to put the lid on the jar, but be the one to take it off. Not only will this allow you to be successful, but others around you. The mindset can spread to others, allowing people to break the cycle of settling. Think bigger and take the lid off your jar, and instead of your neighborhood limiting your success, you will be able to help others succeed as well. Thank you.
Next is Jakari Richardson from Innovation Central High School in 10th grade.
Hello everybody, my name is Jakari Richardson. I'm a sophomore at Innovation Central. And I would just like to talk about how my neighborhood, my community, my street, whatever you may prefer, is corrupted with violence, police discrimination, prostitution, and sex trafficking. The streets are not always safe to walk alone, for you may encounter a prostitute, a potential threat, someone who is willing to strip you from your family, or a police officer who sees you as the threat. I have lived on the streets all my life and only see how the streets get worse every single year. I had to be the witness of my brother, Kahari Jaman McIntosh Williams, who was only 29 years old last year. I'm unsure of what my city is willing to do to solve them, but my ideal neighborhood is a place where you can walk the streets without worrying about if you're going to make it home to your family. A place where kids can play at the park safely, a place where violence is no such thing, and a place full of progress and productive work. One solution I have in mind is the moral we lack in our neighborhood and community, and that's accountability. We need to be accountable for how we treat another, how we carry ourselves, how we educate ourselves, and accountable for what and how we are preparing ourselves for the future. We need to encourage our people of Grand Rapids to have accountability. But despite the flaws neighborhoods of Grand Rapids may have, there is beauty in the struggle and ugliness in the success. My last point is there's 24 hours in a day, 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours of school, but how we're gonna spend our last 8 hours of that day. And we should take that one chance every single day to make our community better.
Next, we have Alora Moe from Excel Charter Academy in 5th grade.
Hi, good morning. My name is Alora and I'm in 5th grade at Excel Charter Academy. There are times I have felt unsafe in my neighborhood. One reason is because there's some stealing that goes on. One night, my 2 brothers and I came back from school and we wanted to ride our bikes outside. We went to our backyard. We couldn't find my brother's bike. So we told my mom. My mom went to the next door neighbor, but they were not home because they had gone on a camping trip. So my mom went to our other neighbor and I asked if anyone had seen my brother's bike got stolen. He said no, but he would tell us if he heard anything. My bike was stolen the next night, later that week. I saw another girl riding the exact same bike I used to have in my neighborhood. Another reason I feel unsafe is because there's violence in my neighborhood. I can often hear fighting going on in the houses around me. One time a man from one of the houses ended up going to jail after the police were called. I also feel like there's a lot of racism in my neighborhood. My mom always tries to be welcoming to new neighbors in the area. However, they sometimes react negatively to her because of her race. Sometimes people ignore her kindness and mine because of the color of her skin. My final reason for feeling unsafe at times is that smoking is in my neighborhood. Smoking is dangerous to young children in the area because they can breathe it in and it damages their lungs. For these reasons, I don't always feel safe where I live. My neighborhood would be better if we helped one another, looked out for the children playing, cleaned up the trash, and had less smoke in the air. My hope is that everyone in the neighborhood starts to think about the positive changes that could make, because it is our job to make a safer and better environment in our neighborhood.
Next is Ariana Hernandez from Grand Rapids Montessori High School in 10th grade.
While I may not live in Grand Rapids now, I did learn a lot when I did. I grew up on the west side of Grand Rapids, and there was a level of inconsistency with the neighbors because a lot of them were college students that moved out every year. And because of that, I didn't really have friends to play outside with. But I also learned that where you live does not determine your success. What determines it is how you enact on your opportunities. But it also depends on if the city provides them. And when I lived there, I knew a man whose main goal in life was to own a corner store that he could pass on to his children. And that made him successful in his own mind. And I want everyone here to know that you can be successful depending on how you define it, even if it's just you completing goals for that day. And I hope everyone here can learn from that. Thank you.
Next, we have Annika Spolma from Grand Rapids Public Museum School in 8th grade.
Hi. I would like to start off by saying that my parents are divorced. My mom lives in Alger Heights and my dad lives in Baxter. This makes my perspective more powerful because I am able to immediately compare two very different neighborhoods. In Baxter, there was a man that shot a teenager down our street. Both ends of the road were blocked off, and we couldn't leave the house. Incidents like this reflect upon the quality of a neighborhood. Although these issues can be blamed on the people moving into a certain neighborhood and their personal actions, the physical aspects of a neighborhood are also a contributor. There are several houses that are practically breaking down, and the roads have potholes and cracks. Baxter needs to clean up the roads and houses to improve the safety of everyone living there. Currently, Baxter is listed as the sixth most dangerous neighborhood in Grand Rapids, while Elger Heights isn't even on the list. I am now accustomed to seeing a police car on almost every corner, but my brain still cannot normalize this because when I go back to Elger Heights, there's almost never a police car, and you can safely walk your dog down the street by yourself. I do understand that Baxter is labeled as an unsafe neighborhood, so police are more likely to drive through it than other neighborhoods, but the police presence is contributing to its unsafe label, and most of the time they do not assist in fixing any actual issues. I also understand that every neighborhood has its issues and some level of danger, but we cannot continue to have neighborhoods in Grand Rapids where the furthest you can go by yourself is your backyard. If we can improve how the neighborhood looks by fixing it up as much as possible, then we can start to create a better reputation, and the constant police presence will not be needed there unless called upon. In some cases, police patrol Baxter more than Elger Heights because of the assumptions made on the people living there. Some police profile Baxter based on the demographics of the neighborhood, ultimately adding to that stereotype with the constant police presence. It takes everyone's contributed work to make Baxter a safe place. The people must fix up their houses if they can, the city must work on fixing up the roads, and the police must forget their stereotypes and work off of only what they know. As community members of Baxter, we have a responsibility to make our neighborhood safer for children and people moving there. We can do this by having better communication with the city and the police, creating relationships, and being there to remind each other to clean up the litter in our neighborhood. These actions can be taken by anyone in their own community. Thank you.
Next, we have Charlotte Haven from Grand Rapids Public Museum High School in 9th grade.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Haven, and my voice is kind of bad, so I have my friend Joanna Workman here just in case it cuts out. I have decided to talk about how safe I feel in my neighborhood. It's a tough question to answer because I don't think of myself in any sort of danger there. It's my home, I feel comfortable. There are a bunch of kids in my neighborhood, so it's not unusual for there to be 2 or 3 of them running around outside. It's generally a friendly and welcoming place. But thinking back on it, there have been some incidents that make me reconsider how safe it actually is. We've had people steal bikes and other things, but that never made me feel uneasy or nervous. There's an ice cream shop a few blocks down, and I don't feel threatened at all when we walk down there. In my mind, there's not a reason to worry. But recently, during the school year, there's a situation where someone might have been illegally armed. The police were all over the place. They blocked the streets off, there were SWAT teams out, and police dogs were in our backyards. We couldn't go anywhere for several hours. My brother and I had to stay in the basement in case there were stray gunshots. They ended up forcing their way into the guy's house by kicking down the door. Overall, it was not a fun day. That made me a little more cautious, but if I were asked if my neighborhood was safe, my immediate response would still be yes. In this case, the police handled the situation really well. Now, I'm really into criminal justice and also true crime stories, more specifically the ones of the wrongfully convicted. Because of this, my first thought of police activity is negative. I haven't had any personal bad interactions, but I've read stories. One of the issues of the police's communication with the public on this specific case was that we weren't told about any of the aftermath. We just had to trust that the area was safe again. But having police around is important to keeping people safe. I think the police do a great job of protecting. The only problem is if police are around a lot, then it would make people think that there's something that they would need protecting from, and they'd be on edge. It's a very hard scale to balance. Too little police presence is dangerous, and too much is worrisome. Living life in a constant state of fear is not healthy for the mind. Neighborhoods need protecting from incidents like the illegally armed man, and police are the ones who have the most power when it comes to control. I don't know how much police presence is the right amount, but on either extreme side of the spectrum, it adds up to people being afraid. We need to stay safe, but also live happy, carefree life. Thank you for listening.
Next is Zacchaeus D. Palmer Richardson from East Kentwood High School in 10th grade.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zacchaeus Dantes Palmer Richardson. I'm 16 years old. I go to East Kentwood High School. I'm a sophomore. And I'd like to talk about a lot of stuff that's going on in my neighborhood. To start off, I would like to bring up the cleanliness of the neighborhood, because our neighborhood tends to have a lot of more trash and litter lining the streets to the point where it's kind of in the way, especially a lot of like paper, plastic, and glass, being that glass is a lot of shattered bottles lining the streets, and to the point where it will pop tires of bikes and other like stuff that has tires. But like especially bikes, because I've rode my bike and actually like popped my tires going down the street, because there's just so many tiny fragments of glass. It's to the point where if you tripped and fell playing outside, like you might get glass in your knee or glass in your hands. But I'd like to bring up the trash like problem, because it pretty much just adds a lot of like clutter to the area that just is unneeded. So I feel like we should have a better way to put trash, like walking down the street, if you're having like a snack or something and you have trash or garbage or refuse, that we need a place to better put it, maybe trash cans on corners or by bus stops, so that people have less of a cause to litter as much. I'd also like to bring up smoking, especially around children, because I feel like in places that have a lot of children around, like schools, playgrounds, places where there's a high density of just younger people, I feel like we should have smoke-free zones because of the effects of secondhand smoke upon children and young adults. Because I feel people should have the choice to smoke, but I also feel like they shouldn't enforce that choice onto others by like having to be in proximity of these toxins that a lot of people don't want like their kids around, or just don't personally want. I'd also like to bring up children in the area, because we have okay schools in the area, but they're still not the best because of like the environment. There's a lot of jostling in schools nowadays, to the point where a lot of children's come up and it's less of you're coming here to get an education, and it's more the schoolhouse is starting to look more like the streets in the area, instead of children going and learning and like being happy and educated. It's more looking like, hey, this is just prep for what's happening in the streets, like prep for aggression towards each other, and a lot of just like hostility in the environment. I'd also like to bring up violence in the area, because this is one that personally hits home for me, because a couple members in my family and a couple family friends have been affected and killed because of violence in the area, due to things like drugs, gang violence, and gambling, to the point where I can list 2, 3 off the top of my head of people that were pretty close to me that are now gone because of people making bad choices in the area, and just not having the best head on your shoulders when it comes to dealing with situations, and just being together as a unison instead of being against each other hostily. I'd also like to bring up safety, because safety is another thing that is very important to me in the area, because I walk a lot. My family doesn't own a car, so I ride my bike a lot, like previously stated. I'm also the oldest of 6 children. I have 6 younger siblings that live with me. So I'd like to take them out to more parks and things, but the parks are full of smokers and, again, a lot of hostility, and they're not exactly clean, to the point where I'd like to bring my younger siblings, 9 and below, to go and play and feel safe having them around. because again, there's a lot of violence on like basketball courts, and a lot of theft happens in the area because I've had my bike stolen 3 or 4 times in the area. It's that bad to the point where we don't even keep bikes at our house. We keep our bikes at our grandparents' house and can only ride our bikes or really play outside when we go over to our grandparents' house to visit. We don't really go and play outside and around our house or in our area. We don't even really see other children out. I would have no idea if there were even other teenagers really in the area because I see so few people outside living and experiencing life or in the parks. Theft is another big problem because it builds distrust between each other and the community. And I feel like we should be able to trust each other as like a family and be able to be closer together and talk with people in our community and be friends with each other. But a lot of theft and distrust has been brought up because of all the violence and other things that have been happening in the area. I also like to bring up safety because there have been a few nights where there's been gunshots off in the neighborhood and my younger siblings have been like, what was that? And I have to make something up on the spot and be like, it's nothing to worry about. It's fireworks, just go back to bed. So it comes to a point where I want my family to be safe and my siblings to grow up in an environment that's prosperous for them, but also an environment that's prosperous for my family, myself, and people in the general neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Next is Ashton Eady from Grand Rapids Montessori High School in 10th grade.
Hi, I'm Ashton Eady, a sophomore at Grand Rapids Montessori, and I would like to acknowledge everybody who's come out here today to see and get to know the problems in our community and really understand what we're coming from in our concerns. And my prompt that I wrote about was, does where you live determine how successful you will be today, tomorrow, and in the future? Why or why not? I think that the determining factor that decides whether an individual is successful or not only depends on the individual alone. So no, I don't believe the notion that to be successful, you have to have lived in a certain area to be successful. Now let me elaborate by saying we always have a choice to everything we do in life. So if a black man was born and raised in the worst of worst places, he always has the chance to rise above and become stronger from those experiences. Because in this day and age, there are opportunities presented and handed out by the government and organizations to help those who are in need. And you need to go out and get those, which is something my mom likes to call the hustle. And you just really need to go out and get it. And my mom, I'll be talking about my mom a little bit later too. But so you can't say X, Y, and Z was working against me, which segues me into my next point. What I mean is that you and only you are responsible for the actions you choose in your life. You need to acknowledge and own up to your mistakes, no matter how bad it is, because not doing either can make you hate yourself, which is a terrible thing, since hating yourself can lead you down a path that's a whole nother subject for another time. And not owning up to your actions leads you to shifting the blame onto others. And when someone shifts the blame, they show that they're not willing to learn and grow, which is a sign of giving up. And my mom, she was in kindergarten, and her kindergarten teacher told her she was not going to amount to anything in her life just because she couldn't write her name. And from that point on, she has been an amazing role model for me and my other 3 siblings. And she has been so active, and she's brightened everybody else's day up that's been around her, and she's just a great person. And she never gave up on anything, not a person or anything she's done. And when when we give up on something, we will always look back and regret what we should or shouldn't have done. But to combat this deep sense of regret, we have to start being active in our community, active in our schools, active towards brightening up someone else's day, or active being towards bettering ourselves. And then maybe we won't have the questions asked like the question here today, since we'll have neighborhoods that everybody can be happy with and live in. And you knowing that you're an individual who has changed the world. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Liliana Geronimo Lucas from City High Middle School in 9th grade.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to start with a thank you to everyone who's here and everyone who's watching from home, from work, from wherever they're at. And one of the major problems I hear with the youth and little kids now is I don't want smoking in my area. And I'm like, none of us want it, but the thing is, now I was walking one day, and I'm in the Mayor's Youth Council. It was after our monthly meeting with Mayor Bliss, and I was walking because I feel safe to walk at home, like in my street, around my neighborhood. And I was walking through this park, the house right next to the park. And I don't know how to describe this, but it was a 6th grader. I don't know where her family's from or what's happening around, but she was smoking. And I got home and I told my mom, and I wanted to do something. But the thing is, she's new to the neighborhood and I didn't know how to approach it. I was like worried about what her mom would say to me, or if something would happen to my life. I was like, what can I do if it's a 6th grader? And I see her every morning in the bus stop, and it's like, that didn't happen. And I'm like, that comes back to my mind. I'm like, I have that in my mind. Like, I know what you did. I know that happened. I can't erase that from my mind. I see her in the morning, because my sister rides the bus too with her. So I see her and I'm like, what if that was my sister? I was like, that can't happen to all our 6th graders, because I know she's a 6th grader because I talked to her older sister. And I didn't bring it up because I was like, what if something happens to me? So I went and I asked her, I was like, so what grade's your sister in? And I got some more information. And I was like, why? Like, what can I do? And I was just like, if I see it again, I'll go up to her house and ask for the parents, even though I haven't seen her parents around. And so I'm like, yesterday I saw her outside, she was playing. And so I was like, I went up to her and I was like, I had a conversation about her school with her. And I was just like, I brought it up a little and I was like, we shouldn't be doing that. Like, kids right now are actually fighting against that. Like, you're doing that, but there's other kids in other neighborhoods even worse than ours right now. And they're the ones that want no smoking. I'm like, when you're like 60, you want to have cancer. Like, I brought it up because I've done projects on smoking thanks to my health teacher. And I've learned the effects and what happens to the human body when you're in the smoking and when you get addicted to it. And I told her, I sat down with her and I got home a little later. My mom was like, why are you coming at this hour? And I was like, I had a conversation with the 6th grader about smoking because I saw her. And it's like, she just looked at me after this talk and she was like, okay. Like, she was just like, okay. I'm like, when she gets older, I hope she remembers our talk and she doesn't start again. Okay, and then the next point. So when I was writing my speech, right? So this isn't in my speech. I made that right now. Okay, because I hear all these kids saying, I don't want smoking in my neighborhood. Okay, so then, but when I was writing my speech, I read the prompts for like 4 times, all of them. And there's another Mayor's Youth Council member, Abigail. We were in physics class, and I was reading the prompts, and she was with me. I was like, I have to do this speech. And I'm like, it's due like in 3 days. Like, I need to turn it in. And so then I was with her, and she saw me read it 4 times over and over. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I chose the prompt, right? I chose one prompt first. It was the, if you would like live in another neighborhood, right? And then I started it, I had a paragraph by the end of the class, because it was like a free hour that day. And what happened to that was it went gone. Like, I deleted it all because I was like, I don't want to talk about this. Like, right now, at my age, I am proud of where my community's at, my neighborhood's at, because right now I see the progress. My mom's a really big person around the neighborhood. She walks around since 5 years ago. She started going with the neighborhood association. She's been over there at schools. And I remember when I was 6, she pulled me. She was like, we have to go because it's important to be in the neighborhood, be around. And I would sit down and pout. And I was like, why? What is the importance of that? It has nothing to do with me. I'm like, I'm just a kid. I could do whatever. I could stay home and watch TV. But she pushed me, and thanks to her, I'm here. And she pushes me to my greatest. And so I don't know what I would do without her, because she's a really great woman in my life as my mother figure. And she's pushing me and my 2 other sisters. And even though when I get mad at my sister, because I'm like, I push her to do the community too, like, because now we have to do service hours for schools and everything. And I'm like, we have to get out there. And my sister is like me when I was around her age. She sits down and she's like, that's not benefiting me. And I'm like, there's kids that would want to be in your position, and I sit down, and then we have an argument over how it's very important, and then she ends up coming with me because my mom forces her. So then, but she's like, I'll do it when I get to freshman like you. I'll do it later. Like, she puts things later, and I'm like, it's not later, it's right now, because right now things are happening. Things will change with our voice. Because we're not just students, but we're the ones that are living currently in our neighborhoods. And she's like, it's not important to volunteer. Like, she's like, I'll just make something up for my hours. And I'm like, that isn't the point of doing your hours, just making things up. You have to put yourself out there. And she's like, I'm not like you. I'm like, yes, we're not alike, but I started where you're at. And we have many chapters more to go, because one thing my mom thinks is weird about me is that I see life as a book, because we all have like a story. We all started somewhere, but we're all gonna end in different chapters. We're all gonna end in a different way. We're all gonna have a different, like, I personally, so when I was around 10, on May 10th, I got the news that my father was in an accident at work. And I don't talk a lot about this like with my friends, but he died in the accident. And so since then, my mom's been pushing me and my sisters out. And I guess at that time, I was like, why didn't they do anything at that job, at his job, right? And I'm like, at that time, the first 2 years, I felt the pain. I was like, why? Why him? Why not me? But now I see that what happened to my past helps me right now. Right now I'm out. Right now I've done presentations with 8th graders, 7th graders, talking about my community and where I started. And I still am nervous when I talk, but it's because when you think about it, there's many people like you. Many people start somewhere,
many people end somewhere, but I remember when my dad said that he would want me to walk the aisle in high school. And I was like, okay. Like, I shook it off because I was in elementary. But now, when I go to school every day, I'm like, I have to try my best because it's for my father. I'm like, I'm in this position because I want to do the best, because he did everything he could to make me as a person as I am right now. He would when people would call in the weekends, they need a ride at like 6 in the morning. He would wake up knowing that he has to go to work at 12, and he came like around 11 in the night. He was like, yeah, I'll go. And he got ready, he got up, and he went. And I see them sometimes like, when I'm walking, right? And I'm like, they pass right there with their car, and I'm like, I hope they remember my father. Like, there's people that my dad gave loans to, and they haven't given it to my mom. They're like, you're not the person they gave it to me. I'm not gonna give it back. Mom's like, you don't hold the anger. You could just change. You can't change someone, but you could change their perspective on things. She's like, I'm raising you to be someone to change the perspective, someone who wants change, someone who wants the better change, not the negative change. But enough of that. Now I'll talk more on the topic as I'm supposed to. And okay, so I chose at the end of the time, I chose the prompt about, I don't remember word for word, but I know it was about parks. So when I was little, I went to this little like preschool, kindergarten school, like in the Roosevelt area, and because I lived around that area, and I remember the park was blue and black, 2 colors. Okay. When I got a little older, 2 years, 3 years older, when I had my little sister, who's right now in 6th grade, and she was like around 5, we would go to the park. And the swings were in horrible condition. The color blue wasn't blue anymore. And I was like, I told her, it's better, like, let's just go home and play with our play set. Like, because I was like, there's no point to go to a park that you don't feel that brings you like happiness and it's like fun. So we would go home. And then I think it was 2 summers ago, there's a new preschool there, and because our preschool got closed down, so they closed it down for like 5 years, 4 years. Now they have a new preschool there, and I'm proud to say that the park is not the same park anymore, and now it is with different colors: yellow, red, orange, green. And now I have my youngest sister, she is 5 right now, about to turn 6, and she enjoys the park. And I'm proud to say that my neighborhood has changed in many ways. And I know that right now there's the Roosevelt Plazas happening, and I'm like, in 2020, I'm like, at 2020, this won't look like the start when I first saw it. This won't be the same neighborhood as it was, and I'm proud. I mean, my friends are like, can we come to your house? I'm like, yeah, like my neighborhood's safe. I feel my street is safe. I mean, I heard that there's things happening like more above like at Cesar Chavez area and the Cook Library Center, but like I've been there, I do things, I volunteer there, I see them happening, but I'm hopeful. I'm like, this won't be the same thing in like a couple years because I see the change. And so another park I want to talk about is the Roosevelt Park, which is like on Clay Park in Granville. And so that park, when I started going to that park, it was just a park and like this exercise little area. But now there's like a water park thing, and there's like a walking area, and I guess it's more entertaining. And even though I don't go to parks a lot anymore because my time is more of like homework, school, and like
go volunteer over here, go volunteer over there, because my mom likes me volunteering everywhere. She signs me up even though not consenting me, but she's like an hour before, she's like, oh, we have to go here. I signed you up for this volunteer thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go, I guess. I don't have a choice, but my mom makes me go. I mean, I'm just here to say that every kid here has a voice and we should take it out. And it doesn't matter if it's not as big, because at the end of the day, it will be very encouraging and big, and there's always someone there to support you.
Thank you, Liliana. Next, we have Maria Maldonado Robles from Grand Rapids Public Museum School, 9th grade.
Hello, my name is Maria. I am a freshman at the Grand Rapids Public Museum High School, and I live in the Black Hills. I have lived in the Black Hills for 4 years now. It has a reputation for being a poor neighborhood, but from what I have experienced during these past 4 years, I can say it does not live up to its reputation that much. Some good things about my neighborhood are the Oxford trails, my backyard, and the music in the background playing in the early summer mornings. To answer the question of whether or not my neighborhood measures up to ideal neighborhood, the answer is no. My reasons as to why I think this way is because of the ideals I have created by seeing some other neighborhoods in my city. For example, I have seen streets in neighborhoods on the east side of Grand Rapids. On the east side of Grand Rapids, you can see that the streets are cleaner, the houses are nicer, there's less crime, and there are more private schools. Compared to my Black Hills, the streets are lined with trash. There are houses that look like they have seen better days. You can't leave an invisible change in your car or else it won't be there the next day, and the only school in my neighborhood was shut down. A hammock was stolen from my family, as well as several chains left in the car. My ideal neighborhood is not the neighborhood I live in. It's the east side. People on the east side drive nicer cars as well. While a lot of my neighbors' cars are nice, a Ford can't compare to a BMW. In my neighborhood, you go to the park, the slide is covered in graffiti, the soccer net is missing, and don't you dare turn your back on your bike, because it might be gone by the time you turn back. Last time I was at a park in the east side neighborhood, I couldn't believe my eyes. So far, I have been comparing the east side neighborhood to the Black Hills. I haven't really thought of what I want to improve in my neighborhood. There's many things I would like to improve in my neighborhood, but not much can be done. I really want the high school in my neighborhood to reopen for high schoolers to get a better education. I want my neighborhood to have trash cans on the east side of the street so adults and children can throw away trash and avoid littering in the streets. I want people to learn to not pilfer objects from children's playgrounds, but we can't change people's mindsets on how they act and what they think is the right thing to do. Thank you for listening.
Next is Jordan McNeil from University Prep Academy in 10th grade.
Good morning. Approximately 7.6 million companion animals enter animal shelters nationwide every year. Think of the number 7.6 million. 7.6 million people, 7.6 million pizzas, $7.6 million. Isn't that a lot? Yeah. That's a lot of pets. Of those 7.6 million animals, approximately 3.9 million of those are dogs, and approximately 3.4 million are cats. On my walk home, I normally see about 4 homeless cats, and they're different every day. I've seen people scream at these cats, swat at them, throw trash, even spit on them. In my community, more people should take care of the animals on the streets because these animals are helpless, they're scared, and taking care of them can bring the community together. The animals on the streets are helpless. They don't have a stable home or a consistent food and water source that they need to survive. They don't get the human love and affection that they need because all people see them as an ugly street animal. Imagine if that cat was me, a kid. If I was just wandering the streets, as skinny as can be, just searching for food in the trash, would you spit on me? These animals are just trying to survive and they're trying their best. Simply putting out a bowl of water or leaving them some of your pet's food can help them a lot. As many street animals as there is in my community, it's going to take more than a couple people to take care of them all. People would have to work together and communicate with each other to help the animals. Working together would create and build relationships within the community. Helping animals can be a conversation starter, and it could be a great way to meet neighbors you never knew you had. According to www.happierhumans.com, research shows that having animals around improves moods of many. Even a simple smile of walking out your door to see a cute cat brought you a little bit of happiness you didn't have before. And it doesn't take much effort at all. If my mom would allow it and I didn't have my own territorial pet cat, I would put a bowl of water and a dish of food for the cats that like to come by my house. We can give them a sense of security in a community that they're actively a part of. Some might argue that these animals have multiple diseases and they're aggressive, or say, why would I want an animal like that anywhere near my house? And you're right. But remember, they're hostile because they're trying to survive and that's all they're focused on. Offering them food is a great way to show them you don't want to hurt them and you just want to help them. Instead, people should care for these animals because they live in our community too. And if we treat animals like they're nothing, it's treating the community like they're nothing, like it's nothing. They're helpless and scared, just like you and me would be if we're on the streets. So next time, put a bowl out and allow the animals of our community to thrive as we want our community to thrive. Thank you.
Dahlia Mendez from University Prep Academy, 10th grade.
Hello, my name is Dahlia Mendez. I'm currently at University Preparatory Academy and I'm in the 10th grade. Bullying. Bullying is something that can happen anywhere at any time. Bullying can happen at work, school, homes, parks, anywhere. It is a humongous problem that needs to stop. Bullying is not something that kids are only capable of. Adults bully other adults and kids as well. Some people even accidentally bully others. That's why bullying is a problem that needs to be stopped. One reason why bullying needs to be stopped is because children and adults who are bullied are more likely to commit suicide. According to bullyingstatistics.org, it states, suicide is the third leading cause of death among young people, resulting in 4,400 deaths per year. Suicide is very serious. This is someone's life, someone's daughter, son, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, cousin, friend. This is a person whose life had meaning and value. Another reason why bullying should be stopped is because it can cause the victims to act out and do bad things. According to CarrieMagro.com, harassment and bullying have been linked to 75% of school shootings. This makes me so sad because since one person decided to bully someone else, other people have to pay the consequences. In school shootings, students, teachers, and people around are also hurt or killed. Some kids don't get to go home to their parents, and some parents don't get to go home to their kids, which can cause more kids to end up hungry, depressed, and upset with a life that they did not choose. A lot of people believe that bullying is something that only kids are capable of. Adults bully to get more power over someone else, making them more dominant. TheBullyingProject.com states, many adults who have trouble building their own friendship bully. I think adults who have trouble making friends bully because they feel lonely, so they want others to feel lonely as well. While researching, I also found that out of several elementary schools, 45% of teachers admitted to bullying their students. If a child didn't want to go to school because they were scared that a student is going to bully them, imagine how they feel if it's a teacher. Someone who's supposed to help guide them to success is bringing them down. The impact that one teacher could have on a child could be major on their attitude towards learning for the rest of his or her life. In conclusion, people should stop bullying because it causes suicides, poor academic performances, and bad behavior. Bullying affects not only the victim and the bully, but also everyone in the community. So if you see it, stand up and stop bullying before more students lose out on all the opportunities in front of them.
Ryan Rhodes from University Prep Academy in 10th grade.
A family does not have to be perfect. It just has to be united, unknown. Family bonding is a time where families spend time together meaningfully. I believe families should spend more time together. If this happens, students will have better grades, a happy, well-maintained lifestyle, and better mental health. Every family wants the best education for their child. According to goodnet.org, studies state that eating with families can improve grades. Teens who have 5 to 7 dinners per week are twice more likely to have A's and B's compared to teens who have 3 or less dinners. If everyone ate more dinners together, you will see big improvements on grades. The next reason I want you to consider is for you or your family member will be more happy and have a well-maintained lifestyle. According to parentinfluence.com, it states, spending quality time bonding as a family helps promote happiness within the entire household as well within individuals. Children who grow up in a household where they feel heard and respected will grow up to treat others the same way and promote happiness everywhere they go in life. If families took the time to bond with each other, they will become more happier and well-maintained. Another reason families should spend more time together is because it can benefit your family's mental health. According to childdevelopmentinfo.com, it says multiple studies reveal that children are more likely to develop emotional and behavioral disorders when they are received by poor parenting. And each study uses the foundation of spending quality time with children as a vital step to successful parenting. Other people might claim that family bonding is not important as long as they have their basic needs. The reason why that's not strong is because having those needs will not make you or your family member as happy, well-maintained, or a better lifestyle for family bonds. If you had food without a smile, if you had a bed without family to tuck you in at night, is that really even important as much as having a family? This topic isn't very important because it's something everyone can relate to or fix. If you have a family member or even a friend that feels like a family, I ask you to talk to them, hang out with them, eat dinner, help your children or even your younger siblings with homework. The people around us are blessings. Please bond with them and be a good influence on the younger kids in your life. Let them learn from you and bond with you. That's why I believe families should spend more time together. Thank you.
Next is Damaris Valmencho, 11th grade from Innovation Central High School.
Hello. First, I would like to thank everyone who took time to be here today to listen about important topics that happen here in our community. When I think of the perfect place to live, I dream to live in a place where the air I breathe and the water I drink is not polluted, where families are not being ripped apart, and where being colored does not compromise your safety. Just recently, we have had incidents where teens are being faced with discrimination, racial profiling, and hate. On March 11th, 2 young Latino males were stopped by gunpoint by the Grand Rapids Police Department on the southwest part of Grand Rapids, which happens to be where I live. I try to convince my mom that the police are there to keep us safe, but she tells me that they are there to deport us. And I try to convince myself that that is not true, but it is really hard to believe when everything I see says otherwise. Everyone I know is afraid to break a law, the smallest law. When I was little, me and my family would take the bus or go walking to go places. Once I turned 14 and 9 months, I was really happy because I knew that I was able to apply to take driving lessons, and that is exactly what I did. I know that my parents, they can't get their license or anything, so I drive them around and I'm their Uber drivers. But sometimes when I'm driving around, I see, in some cases, I had to stop to translate for other people because they're not able to communicate with these police what is happening. And it breaks my heart when I have to translate, do you have a license? And they tell me no. On September 6, 2016, it was my first day of high school, and I was very excited to start high school at City High School. And I remember coming back from my house excited to share what happened on my first day with my parents when my parents were not there. And I was wondering because what happened, because they were always there when I came back from school. Later that night, I had found out that my dad was detained by ICE, and since then, I had tried to help my mom come through, and just recently, I had the experience of just the fear of having to leave Grand Rapids because either housing was too high or it's just the fear. I know we don't go out for fun, we stay in for safety. And it is really hard to try to be successful when you have all of this stress on top of you. The stress that someday maybe you will come back from home and one of your parents will be missing. And I wouldn't want for anybody else to experience what I had experienced. So far I have tried to convince my mom to do fun things with me, but sometimes we can't even get out of the house because of how scared we are. If something happens in some occasions, like for example, a bike was stolen or we see a stranger in our backyard, we don't feel safe to call the police because we don't know what will happen from there on. And I just wish that I had some way, some reason to like convince my mom that police are there to keep us safe and not to deport us. So, and in a way, I would also like, I don't know how, but if police and the Latino community are able to communicate in one way or the other, because it's really hard when they speak different languages. So that is everything I have to say, and thank you for your time.
So I'm going to be giving our last testimony, and all the thoughts I expressed in my speech are mine and not representative of the Mayor's Youth Council. Okay, I'm Chi-Chi, and I'm a senior at City High Middle School. I've lived in Grand Rapids almost my whole life. The 49506 area code has been most of my world, and I love the community I've grown up in. Although I know a reason that I've been able to maintain this happiness and satisfaction with my neighborhood is that I've never had to move anywhere else. I also know that this is not the case for many other city residents. While I may be young, I still remember how the East Hills and Wealthy Street neighborhood used to be, and I understand how different it is today. While some of the changes that have occurred have benefited the community, such as some of the local business partnerships with Congress Elementary School, many of the rapid developments that have occurred in previously disinvested areas such as East Hills and Wealthy Street have pushed other local businesses and residents out. I believe that we should continue to support and improve our public schools, local businesses, and neighborhoods, especially those of color. But in doing so, be wary of the many who will not be able to keep up with the rising rent prices. Let's ensure that those rising rates do not go back to harm the schools and families that the businesses are supposed to be providing for. Let's ensure that they don't contribute to racial disparities within our city. I believe investing in developing our communities is important when needed, but does not necessarily need to happen using the social capital and finances of a few individuals. Instead, it should occur by building more and better relationships with those who live and work in the buildings we aim to improve. Those parents, students, educators, and business owners who make up the unique communities within Grand Rapids. Renovations in neighborhoods should be to increase opportunities, with investment supporting residents to have access to the growth and improvement that allow for greater access to those opportunities. Development should not just mean new buildings, businesses, and houses, but new buildings, businesses, and houses for the people in those communities. This inclusion is important because too often such revitalization is at the cost of working families' homes, and it's at the cost of our community's culture and heritage. This is not how we as a city should want our communities to grow, nor is it a process we should encourage. So before the next salon is added on Wealthy and Eastern, let's make sure the developments occurring in our city are at the desire of those who will be affecting, and it should also continually focus on the needs and opinions of those same residents. The key will be in focusing and amplifying those voices, but most importantly, hearing them. Thank you.
Thank you. And can we give a round of applause to not just the speakers, but to the audience? Thank you guys for listening. At this time, we would like to ask the listening panel and everyone in the audience to begin filling out the survey you were given. This survey helps us evaluate next year's event to ensure that we have met our outcomes and improve upon next year's event. If you need something to write with, we have members of the Mayor's Youth Council circulating pens and pencils. Please complete the survey before exiting the chambers. Members of the Mayor's Youth Council will collect them at the door. I also want to speak directly to those in the room or those watching this on TV or online. If you are 15 to 24 years old, you live in the city of Grand Rapids and need meaningful employment, check out the LEAD program. If you go through this program, you can earn a job working for the city and other businesses in the community that participate in the Mayor's 100 campaign. You not only learn about city government, but how to write an effective cover letter and resume. But you'll also get to take yoga classes and learn how to manage your money and so much more. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. So again, if you're looking for employment and you're 15 to 24 years old, check out LEAD. Application and flyers are available in the hallway and online at ourcommunitieschildren.com. That's ourcommunitieschildren.com.
As you're filling out your surveys, we'd like to take a minute to acknowledge and thank our generous partners and sponsors. Our community's children, Michigan's children, the City of Grand Rapids, the Grand Rapids Public Schools, the Olive Garden on 28th Street for catering today's lunch, the Grand Rapids Children's Museum for catering the breakfast snacks for our speakers and Mayor's Youth Council this morning, as well as providing the fun activity and prizes during the lunch, so make sure you stop by their table downstairs. And the Mercantile Bank for sponsoring the t-shirts. Please give them a loud round of applause. Almost there.
And before everyone leaves, I want to welcome Ms. Shannon L. Harris, a program coordinator with Our Community's Children, as she gives some closing remarks. And I want to say, without her, this wouldn't happen. She's a hero. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's give it up to our MCs, shall we? Riley and Chi-Chi. So Chi-Chi is our president for the Mayor's Youth Council this year, and Riley is the chair of the KidSpeak committee. So they came up with today's topic and essay prompts, and they are seniors, and they are going to a university of their choice in the fall. So just a few remarks. I want to thank all the mentors that are here, the teachers, the after-school providers, the parents, the teachers, the counselors, the ELO network members, all staff and school staff that are here. Thank you so much for supporting this event and bringing young people here. And I want to give some special shout outs to the mayor, Mayor Bliss. Thank you so much for supporting this event. Yes. And she makes this a priority in her busy schedule every year, so thank you so much for doing that again this year. Another shout out to Rakundo. I don't think he's in the building or in the room anymore, but again, our artist in residence. So he created the shirts, the design. Jovan, owner of Bear All Clothing, he was the one that actually printed the shirts. Danavia, who's in the back with her camera. Thank you so much for your artistry in that. And Karina, who is our intern, I think she's downstairs setting up lunch. So Karina went through our LEAD program 2 years ago, and she's been interning with us ever since, and she was my right-hand woman for this event. So thank you so much, Karina. She'll see this online at some point. I also want to thank Olive Garden, again, I know that's been said, but they provided the lunch for all of us. So everybody, including listening panelists, we have food downstairs, free of charge. So thank you so much for doing that. We also want to thank the Children's Museum, again, and I know that some Children's Museum staff is in the room, and they're also providing an activity during lunch. And I just wanted to say really quickly, I watched a documentary last night. It was called Homecoming. Some of you guys might be familiar with that, right? Beyonce, Homecoming. But it's really a master class in precision, in professionalism, and in power. And a part of that documentary, there were some voiceovers of some famous poets and some authors, and one being Maya Angelou, which we all know. And so she was asked the question, it was just a voiceover, and I don't know when this was recorded, but they asked her, what would you say to this generation? What kind of advice would you give to this generation? Excuse me. And she said, I would tell them to tell themselves the truth first and then tell others. And I think that that happened today. Not only did these young people tell their own truth, but they told the truth. And so I want to give it up again for these young people that spoke today. And last but not least, yes, we have lunch, but we also have T-shirts. So we have T-shirts left over. So all the adults in the room that did not get a T-shirt, we have a T-shirt for you. We want you to take one and wear it proudly. And I'll turn it back over to Chi-Chi and Riley.
Don't forget to drop off your surveys on the way out.
And lunch is downstairs on the Ottawa level. Thank you so much for all coming.